My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the most painful feelings in life is realizing someone you cared about deeply could not see your value. You tried to be patient, understanding, and sincere, yet you were still unappreciated. You replay conversations in your mind, wondering what you could have done differently. But sometimes the pain is not a sign you failed, it is a sign Allah was protecting you. Not every loss is a punishment. Some losses are rescue. Allah sees what you cannot see, the disrespect, the hidden harm, the emotional exhaustion you were slowly learning to accept. When He removes someone from your life, it is not always because you were not enough. Often it is because they were not good for your heart. What you are grieving may actually be what Allah saved you from. Allah removes what damages your peace. There are times when a person keeps asking Allah to fix a situation while Allah is actually fixing the person by removing the situation. You may have begged for that relationship, that friendship, or that connection to continue, yet everything slowly fell apart. You wondered why your du'a was not being answered. But sometimes the answer to your du'a is not preservation, it is separation. Allah knows what disturbs your heart even when you refuse to admit it. You tolerated words that hurt you, behavior that drained you, and stress that affected your peace, all because you feared losing someone. Allah saw your silent tears and emotional exhaustion. So He removed what you could not let go of yourself. What you called loss may actually be mercy. When Allah protects your heart, He does not always do it gently according to your feelings, but He always does it perfectly according to your needs. Often a believer confuses attachment with goodness. Just because you care deeply does not mean the relationship is healthy. You stayed hopeful, believing patience meant tolerating continuous pain. But Islam never teaches you to sacrifice your dignity to maintain someone's presence. Peace is a gift from Allah, and anything that constantly steals it requires reflection. When your mind becomes anxious and your prayers distracted because of someone, your heart is sending you a message. Allah removes what repeatedly damages your tranquility. At first you resist because you remember good moments, but Allah sees the full picture. He knows what you do not know. After the separation, you begin to realize how heavy your heart had become. Slowly, the calmness you lost begins to return. Sometimes you noticed small signs but ignored them. You justified disrespect, forgave without change, and kept hoping effort would be returned. You believed love meant endurance without limit. Yet Allah does not want you emotionally broken. He does not want you to live in constant worry about someone's behavior. A believer should have sakina, a calmness in the heart. When someone consistently removes that calmness, Allah may remove them. The pain you feel afterward is real, but so was the pain you lived with before. The difference is that one pain heals while the other damages. Allah chooses the pain that heals you. With time, you recognize that your heart is breathing again. Your thoughts become clearer and your prayers regain focus. What felt like a harsh ending begins to reveal itself as careful protection. You may keep asking why Allah allowed you to become attached first. Understand that every experience teaches something about yourself. Through that connection, you learned patience, forgiveness, and emotional awareness. You discovered how much you can care and how much you can endure. But lessons sometimes end with separation. Allah allows attachment so you can grow, then removes it so you can heal. He does not want your heart dependent on creation. Your heart belongs to Him first. When someone begins to occupy that space excessively, Allah redirects your focus. He gently brings your reliance back to Him. After the removal, your du'a becomes deeper because you speak to Allah with honesty and need. After separation, overthinking becomes intense. You replay conversations, wondering what you could have said differently. You imagine scenarios where things worked out. But you are trying to control what Allah already decided. The mind searches for closure, yet closure is not always found in explanations. Closure comes in acceptance. Allah did not remove them to confuse you, but to calm you. When you trust His wisdom, your thoughts gradually quiet. You stop searching for hidden meanings and start accepting divine planning. Your energy shifts from analyzing the past to rebuilding yourself. Healing begins when you stop arguing with Allah's decree and start trusting it. Another mercy in removal is protection from future harm. What you saw was only a portion of reality. Allah saw character, intentions, and consequences you could not see. You were attached to who they were with you, but Allah knew who they would eventually be for you. Sometimes Allah saves you from a deeper heartbreak, a worse betrayal, or a longer suffering. You may never know the details, but you will feel the benefit later. Months or years pass and you realize you were guided away at the right time. Gratitude replaces confusion. You thank Allah for a pain you once questioned because you see what it prevented. Many people believe peace comes from keeping people, but true peace comes from keeping Allah. When your heart depends too heavily on someone, anxiety grows because humans are unstable. They change, misunderstand, and disappoint. Allah is the only constant. When He removes someone, He is teaching you reliance on Him rather than creation. Your comfort becomes du'a, your strength becomes prayer, and your reassurance becomes tawakkul. Slowly you find stability not tied to a person's behavior. This independence is not coldness, it is emotional balance. You care, but you trust Allah more. You may feel lonely after Allah removes someone. Silence feels uncomfortable and your routine changes. But loneliness is not always negative. Sometimes it is the space where Allah heals you. In quiet moments, you reconnect with yourself and your faith. You notice how much energy you were spending trying to maintain what was not written for you. Now that energy is redirected to personal growth. You read more Quran, reflect more, and understand yourself better. Allah fills the emptiness gradually with peace rather than distraction. What once felt empty becomes restful. Self-respect grows through acceptance. Before, you tolerated what you should not have tolerated. Now, you learn boundaries. Islam teaches kindness but also dignity. Allowing harm repeatedly is not patience, it is self-neglect. Allah honors the believer and does not want humiliation for you. When He removes someone, He restores your dignity. You stand firmer in your values and protect your heart wisely. You forgive without returning to harm. This balance is maturity. You realize that walking away was not weakness but wisdom guided by Allah. Healing does not happen in one day. Some days you feel strong, other days you miss them deeply. Both feelings are normal. Continue making dua for your heart. Ask Allah to replace sadness with contentment. He heals gradually because gradual healing lasts longer. Each day you feel a little lighter. You smile without forcing it and sleep with less overthinking. These small changes are signs Allah is repairing your heart from within. Patience is essential and reward comes with it. Allah also replaces what He removes. You may not see it immediately, but replacement comes in many forms. Sometimes it is better friends, sometimes inner peace, and sometimes simply a calmer mind. The replacement fits your needs rather than your desires. You learn to appreciate stability more than excitement. What Allah gives you later will not confuse your emotions or disturb your worship. You begin to recognize that peace itself is a blessing greater than constant emotional drama. Always remember, Allah does not remove something valuable without reason. He removes what harms your soul and draws you closer to Him. The sadness you felt was part of the journey, not the destination. Trust His wisdom even before you understand it. With patience, you will see how carefully Allah protected you. One day you will look back without pain and realize your heart is calmer, your faith stronger, and your life more balanced. At that moment, you will thank Allah sincerely for what once broke you, because it ultimately rebuilt you. Your worth is not defined by someone's treatment. Many people begin to question their value after being ignored, neglected, or replaced. You gave effort, attention, and sincerity, yet the other person treated you as if you were easily disposable. Slowly your mind starts whispering that maybe you were not enough, but understand this clearly. A person's behavior reflects their character, not your worth. Allah created you with honor long before anyone entered your life. Your value was not assigned by someone's approval, and it cannot be removed by someone's rejection. When you attach your self-respect to people's treatment, your heart becomes fragile. Some will appreciate you and some will not, but Allah's view of you does not change. Remind yourself that being unappreciated by a human does not reduce your standing with your Creator. The one who formed your soul knows your intentions, your patience, and your sincerity. Often a believer overthinks every conversation after a relationship ends. You replay words repeatedly, wondering if you were too quiet, too caring, or too forgiving. You imagine different versions of yourself that might have made them stay. This thinking exhausts the heart because you are trying to earn value from someone who was never meant to define it. Your dignity does not come from being chosen by a person. It comes from being a servant of Allah. When you focus on pleasing people, your peace disappears because human approval constantly changes. But when your focus shifts to pleasing Allah, stability enters your heart. Even if people misunderstand you, Allah understands you completely. This awareness frees you from emotional dependency and gives you internal strength. Sometimes you accepted disrespect in the name of patience. You tolerated harsh words, emotional distance, and inconsistent care because you feared losing them. You called it sabr, but sabr does not mean allowing harm to continue. True patience is remaining obedient to Allah while protecting your dignity. Islam does not ask you to accept humiliation. The believer is gentle but not weak. When someone repeatedly diminishes your value, the problem is not your insufficiency, it is their inability to recognize goodness. Allah honors the believer, and you should not remain where that honor is constantly violated. Walking away is not arrogance, it is preserving the dignity Allah gave you. Your heart may still ask why they appreciated others but not you. This comparison hurts deeply because you think you lacked something important. But people treat others based on their own emotional capacity, not based on fairness. Some cannot recognize sincerity even when it is present. They are distracted by superficial things or personal struggles. You were not rejected because you lacked value. You were placed in a situation where your value was unseen. Allah sometimes removes you from environments where you are not appreciated, so your heart stops shrinking. When you understand this, you stop blaming yourself and begin healing. Attachment makes you believe that one person's opinion determines your future happiness. You begin to think your life cannot improve without their recognition. But Allah is Al-Muqaddim and Al-Mu'akhir, the one who advances and delays. He can open doors you never imagined. A person's acceptance cannot secure your destiny, and a person's rejection cannot block your rizq. When you release emotional dependence, you feel relief. Your heart stops waiting for validation and starts trusting Allah's plan. You realize your future was never held in someone's hands. One of the most damaging thoughts is believing you must change your personality to be loved. You try to become quieter, funnier, or less expressive just to maintain attention. Gradually, you lose authenticity and feel empty. Allah created you uniquely with qualities suited for your life's path. The right people will appreciate those qualities without you forcing yourself. When someone requires you to abandon your principles or identity to keep them, the relationship itself is unhealthy. Allah does not want you to earn love by losing yourself. He wants you to be valued for who you are while remaining within His guidance. Healing begins when you shift your source of validation. Instead of asking, why did they not value me? Ask, how does Allah view me? Allah sees your patience, your late night du'a, and your silent endurance. He knows the intentions you hid from everyone. Even when nobody thanked you, Allah recorded your sincerity. When you internalize this, your heart becomes calmer. You stop chasing people who are unsure about you and start focusing on improving your relationship with Allah. Spiritual confidence replaces emotional insecurity. Sometimes after being hurt, a person closes their heart completely and fears trusting anyone again. But Islam teaches balance. You learn from the experience without becoming bitter. Not everyone will treat you the same way. Allah removes certain people so you can recognize better ones. Guard your heart wisely, but do not let pain make you hopeless. What Allah has written for you will come with clarity and respect. You will not feel constant confusion when something is right for you. Another important lesson is that respect begins with self-respect. When you allow repeated mistreatment, others assume you will tolerate it indefinitely. Setting boundaries is not unkind, it is healthy. Islam encourages kindness along with firmness. Speak gently, but stand firmly in your values. When you honor yourself, you also honor the blessing Allah gave you. You are not being difficult, you are being balanced. The right people will understand your boundaries and appreciate them. You may still miss them, and that feeling is natural. Missing someone does not mean they were good for you. The heart remembers familiarity even when it contained pain. Give yourself time to detach emotionally. Continue making dua for ease and clarity. Allah heals gradually, replacing attachment with acceptance. Each day the intensity decreases and your mind gains perspective. You begin to see the situation more realistically rather than emotionally. Over time, Allah fills your heart with new forms of comfort. Sometimes it is stronger faith, sometimes better companionship, and sometimes inner peace. You begin to feel stable without seeking approval constantly. Your worth becomes rooted in your relationship with Allah rather than human reaction. This stability protects you from future emotional harm because you no longer rely on fragile sources of validation. Always remember, your value was established the moment Allah created you and gave you a soul. No one can reduce it and no one can increase it beyond what Allah decreed. People's treatment may affect your emotions temporarily, but it does not change your reality. Trust Allah's wisdom and continue improving yourself. The one who knows your heart will place you where you are respected and appreciated, and you will find peace knowing your worth never depended on anyone but Him. Attachment can blind the heart. Attachment is a powerful emotion, and sometimes the heart holds on so tightly that it stops seeing clearly. You begin to justify behavior you once knew was wrong. You ignore signs that disturb your peace because you fear losing the person. When attachment grows stronger than wisdom, your judgment becomes clouded. Allah created the heart to love, but He also guided it with balance. Love should bring tranquility, not confusion. When your mind is constantly anxious about someone's words, actions, or mood, your heart is being consumed by dependence rather than care. You start building your happiness around their presence and your sadness around their absence. This is when attachment begins to blind you. Allah, in His mercy, sometimes removes what your eyes refuse to see so your heart can finally understand. What feels like sudden pain may actually be the lifting of a veil that was covering your perception. Often you believed patience meant staying regardless of the harm you felt. You forgave repeatedly without change, hoping effort would eventually be returned. But patience in Islam is not accepting ongoing emotional damage. True sabr is obeying Allah while protecting the dignity He granted you. Attachment makes you call endurance a virtue even when it weakens your soul. You begin to accept less than you deserve because you fear loneliness more than discomfort. Yet Allah knows the difference between loyalty and self-neglect. When your heart becomes attached beyond balance, Allah gently teaches you detachment. He shows you that your peace should not depend entirely on another person's behavior. The lesson may hurt, but it restores clarity. Slowly you realize that patience does not mean holding on to pain. It means trusting Allah when letting go feels difficult. Attachment often begins with good intentions. You care sincerely, you support, and you want stability. But over time, your thoughts revolve around one person constantly. You check for messages repeatedly, wait for attention, and measure your mood by their response. This emotion emotional dependence drains your focus and weakens your connection with Allah. Prayer becomes distracted and your mind becomes restless. Your heart was meant to rely on the Creator, not on creation. When a human occupies the space meant for Allah, imbalance occurs. Allah does not remove people to punish you. He removes them to return your heart to its proper place. After distance, you slowly regain concentration in worship and calmness in your thoughts. What once felt unbearable becomes understandable. Sometimes attachment makes you overlook disrespect. You excuse hurtful behavior by remembering kind moments. You tell yourself they will change because you remember who they were before. Hope keeps you tied even when reality shows otherwise. Allah sees the whole picture while you see only fragments. He knows how the situation would continue and what it would do to your faith. The separation you resist may be protection from deeper harm. When time passes, you notice your anxiety decreasing, the emotional tension fades, and your heart breathes easier. You begin to understand why Allah intervened when you could not detach yourself. Another effect of attachment is losing yourself in the process of keeping someone. You adjust your personality, hide your opinions, and silence your feelings to avoid conflict. Gradually you feel empty because you abandoned authenticity. Allah created you with identity and purpose, not to erase yourself for acceptance. When attachment blinds the heart, approval becomes more important than principles. Allah removes such situations so you can rediscover who you are. After distance, you begin to reconnect with your values and your faith. You speak more honestly and feel more stable internally. You may ask why your heart became attached in the first place. Allah allows experiences to teach awareness. Through attachment, you learn the difference between love and dependence. You recognized how easily emotions can influence decisions. This understanding helps you build healthier relationships later. Lessons often come through difficulty because they remain longer. Allah educates the heart gently but effectively. You come out wiser and more conscious of your boundaries. Overthinking is common after separation. You replay memories, imagining what you could have done differently. But attachment makes you assume responsibility for everything. Not all endings are caused by your failure. Some endings are divine direction. When you trust Allah's decree, your mind relaxes. You stop analyzing every detail and start accepting wisdom beyond your understanding. Acceptance becomes a source of peace. Attachment also makes you fear that happiness cannot exist without that person. Yet with time, you discover calmness returning. You sleep better, your routine stabilizes, and your focus improves. This shows that your peace was not tied to them but hidden beneath the attachment. Allah reveals that contentment comes from Him. Your heart learns to feel secure independently, which strengthens your faith and emotional health. The emptiness you feel after detachment is temporary. Allah fills that space gradually with remembrance, clarity, and self-respect. You begin to enjoy solitude because it is no longer lonely but restful. You reflect more and connect deeper in prayer. This transformation is a gift. What once felt like loss becomes recovery. Healthy love exists when two people bring each other closer to Allah. It does not create constant anxiety or confusion. You will recognize the difference because your heart will feel safe and balanced. Allah prepares you for that by first removing unhealthy attachment. The lesson protects your future relationships. Continue making dua for healing. Ask Allah to purify your heart from unhealthy dependence and replace it with trust in Him. Healing takes time, but every day you feel a little stronger. Your emotional stability increases and your faith deepens. You begin to appreciate Allah's wisdom even before you fully understand it. Always remember, attachment can blur truth, but Allah brings clarity. What you once resisted becomes a mercy you later recognize. The one who separated you did not intend to hurt you, but to guide you. Trust His plan, and you will find your heart calmer, your mind clearer, and your life more balanced than before. Sometimes distance is divine protection. Sometimes the most confusing moment in life is when someone suddenly becomes distant or completely disappears from your path. You expected conversations to continue and plans to grow, yet everything became silent. Your heart begins searching for answers, and you keep asking why Allah allowed this to happen. But understand, not every distance is abandonment. Sometimes it is protection you cannot yet recognize. Allah sees beyond emotions and beyond the present moment. You only see memories and attachment, but He sees consequences and future pain. When Allah distances someone from you, He may be saving your heart from deeper wounds. What feels like rejection today can be a shield from harm tomorrow. Trust that Allah's wisdom is greater than your understanding. Even when your heart struggles to accept it, know that His decision carries mercy. Often you wanted clarity from the person, an explanation or apology to calm your thoughts. You believed closure would heal you. But sometimes Allah does not allow explanations because explanations would keep you attached. If every question were answered, your heart might keep returning. So Allah closes the door quietly. The silence itself becomes the message. He is teaching you to seek comfort from Him rather than from people. When you turn to du'a instead of waiting for their words, your healing begins. You realize that closure is not always found in conversations but in acceptance. Allah replaces unanswered questions with inner calm when you trust Him sincerely. You may think the relationship could have improved if you tried harder. You replay moments and imagine better responses, but you are assuming control over what Allah already planned. Not every situation is meant to be fixed. Some situations are meant to end so your faith can grow. Allah sometimes removes people because their presence would distract you from your purpose. You were investing emotional energy in something that was weakening your heart. After distance, you slowly notice your focus improving. Your prayers become calmer and your mind clearer. What you thought was loss begins to feel like relief. There are harms you never saw, perhaps intentions you never noticed, or character traits you did not recognize yet. Allah sees what is hidden from you. He protects you from future betrayal, deeper heartbreak, or spiritual damage. You might have built your life around someone who could not protect your trust. Allah intervened early. Later you may witness events or truths that confirm this protection. You will realize that the distance happened at the right time. Gratitude replaces confusion because you see the mercy behind the separation. Distance also teaches emotional independence. When someone was always present, you relied on them for comfort and reassurance. Without realizing, your heart leaned heavily on creation. Allah wants your reliance to return to Him. When the person leaves, you feel emptiness, but that emptiness becomes space for faith. You begin making more du'a and finding strength in prayer. Slowly, your heart stabilizes because your support system becomes Allah instead of a person. This independence brings lasting peace. Loneliness after separation feels intense, especially during quiet hours. You remember shared moments and feel the absence strongly. But solitude is not punishment. It is an opportunity for reflection and healing. Allah allows quiet moments so you can reconnect with yourself and your faith. You begin to notice how much emotional energy you were spending trying to maintain the relationship. Now you redirect that energy to personal growth and worship. Your thoughts become clearer and your heart softer. Sometimes you prayed for something specific, but Allah gave you something different. You asked for the person to stay, yet Allah removed them. It does not mean your dua was ignored. It means Allah answered with wisdom rather than desire. He gave you what benefits you rather than what you wanted at the moment. Later you will understand that unanswered prayers were actually protective answers. Trusting this brings comfort even before understanding arrives. Distance also protects your dignity. When someone repeatedly causes confusion or emotional harm, staying would slowly weaken your self-respect. Allah honors the believer and does not want humiliation for you. By creating distance, He restores your sense of worth. You no longer live in constant anxiety about someone's behavior. Your emotional stability improves because you are not waiting for inconsistent attention. Peace replaces tension. Healing takes time, and some days you will still miss them deeply. Missing does not mean the distance was wrong. It simply means you cared. Continue asking Allah to soothe your heart. Each day the pain softens and acceptance grows. You begin to remember lessons more than loss. Allah heals gradually so the healing lasts. Eventually Allah replaces what you lost. Replacement may not come immediately and may not look similar. It could be better companionship, inner tranquility, or simply stronger faith. You start appreciating calm moments you once overlooked. What Allah gives later will not disturb your heart or distract your worship. You recognize that stability is more valuable than excitement. You also gain wisdom through this experience. In future relationships, you notice warning signs earlier and maintain healthier boundaries. You become more balanced emotionally. Allah prepares you through experiences so you are ready for better outcomes. What felt painful becomes preparation. Always remember, sometimes distance is not separation but preservation. Allah does not remove someone to hurt you, but to protect your future and your faith. Trust His decision even when your emotions resist. One day you will look back and see clearly that the distance saved you from something you could not see, and your heart will feel grateful and at peace. Allah replaces what you lose for His sake. There comes a moment when you know in your heart that holding on is hurting your faith. You may care deeply for someone or for a habit that comforts you, yet you also know it distances you from Allah. The decision to leave is heavy because your emotions resist what your conscience understands. When you finally choose Allah, you feel both relief and sadness at the same time. This is a sincere sacrifice. Allah never ignores a sacrifice made for Him. Even if nobody else notices your struggle, He sees every tear and hesitation. At first you feel emptiness because your routine changed, but that emptiness is not punishment, it is space Allah prepares to fill with something purer. He removes what harms your heart and gradually replaces it with calmness. The peace that enters afterward is not excitement but stability, and stability is a deeper blessing. Many people fear that leaving something for Allah will leave their life dull or lonely. Shaitan whispers that obedience will take away your happiness, yet happiness built on disobedience always carried anxiety. You were worried about losing the person, hiding the habit, or feeling guilty afterward. Once you step away sincerely, you notice a different feeling. Your conscience rests. You sleep without mental arguments and wake without regret. Allah replaces temporary pleasure with lasting tranquility. What you lost was emotional intensity, but what you gained is emotional safety. This safety allows your heart to breathe and your mind to relax. Slowly, you realize you did not lose joy. You lost distress disguised as joy. Sometimes the sacrifice is leaving a relationship you once imagined would last forever. You prayed for it to work and invested patience and hope, yet you knew deep inside it was not leading you toward Allah. When you walk away, the pain is real and your heart mourns the future you pictured. But Allah understands this sacrifice better than anyone. He replaces attachment with dignity. You no longer live waiting for inconsistent effort or confusing signals. Your days become calmer because you are not negotiating your worth. Allah may not immediately send another person, but He sends self-respect and emotional clarity first. Those are greater blessings because they prepare you for healthier companionship later. There are private struggles you leave quietly for Allah alone. No one knew the habit except you and your Lord. You fought your urges in silence and resisted repeatedly. This unseen effort is extremely valuable. Allah rewards hidden sincerity with hidden peace. You feel stronger inside because you proved you can control yourself. Your prayers feel lighter and your concentration improves. The barrier between you and worship weakens. Allah replaces shame with confidence and confusion with direction. The struggle becomes a turning point in your life. Allah also replaces what you leave with better people. When you distance yourself from company that pulled you away from good, you initially feel alone. Yet soon Allah places individuals who encourage your growth. Conversations become uplifting instead of draining. You are reminded of prayer rather than distracted from it. Good companionship strengthens your faith and protects your heart. You realize that the previous environment was quietly exhausting you. The new company feels calm and supportive. Allah's replacement is not random. It is carefully suited for your well-being. Another replacement Allah grants is clarity of thought. Sin and unhealthy attachment cloud judgment. After leaving them, your mind becomes clearer. You make decisions more wisely and avoid situations that once trapped you. You begin to understand your priorities. What once confused you becomes obvious. This clarity is a gift because it prevents future mistakes. You recognize harmful patterns earlier and protect yourself better. Allah opens your insight as a reward for obedience. You may also notice barakah entering your daily life. Your time feels more organized and your responsibilities easier to manage. Tasks that once overwhelmed you become manageable. Allah places blessings in your hours because you honored Him with your choice. Your routine becomes balanced between worldly duties and worship. Even difficulties feel lighter because your heart trusts Allah's support. This barakah is a quiet but powerful replacement. Another beautiful replacement is emotional independence. Before, your mood depended heavily on someone or something. Now your stability comes from your connection with Allah. You still care about people, but your peace no longer depends entirely on them. You find comfort in du'a and reassurance in prayer. This independence protects your heart from future disappointment. You feel secure because your reliance rests on the one who never changes. Allah sometimes replaces what you left with opportunities you never expected. New goals appear, new paths open, and your attention shifts towards self-improvement. You begin learning, growing, and focusing on your purpose. You realize you have energy and time you previously spent worrying. Allah redirected your life toward development instead of emotional exhaustion. What once felt like an ending becomes a beginning. Healing does not happen instantly. There are days when memories return and you question your decision. But each time you choose patience, Allah strengthens you. Gradually the attachment fades and acceptance grows. You notice you think about it less and feel lighter. This steady healing is part of the replacement. Allah does not only give you something new, He repairs your heart so you can appreciate it. Eventually you reach a point where gratitude replaces sadness. You look back and understand why Allah asked you to let go. You see how your faith improved and your mind settled. The wisdom becomes visible. You thank Allah for guiding you even when you resisted. Your trust in Him deepens because you experienced His mercy personally. Always remember, Allah never leaves a sincere sacrifice unrewarded. What you leave for His sake returns to you in a better form, at the right time and with greater peace. Trust His promise even when emotions struggle. The one who asked you to let go knows exactly what your heart needs, and He will replace your loss with something that honors your soul and brings lasting tranquility. Healing begins when you accept His wisdom. Healing does not truly begin the day the event ends. It begins the day your heart stops resisting Allah's decision. Many people move forward physically while their heart remains stuck in the past. You keep replaying what happened, asking why Allah allowed it, and imagining different outcomes. This constant questioning keeps the wound open. Acceptance does not mean you never cared or that the pain was small. It means you trust that Allah's wisdom is greater than your understanding. The mind searches for explanations, but the soul needs surrender. When you say sincerely, Ya Allah, I do not understand, but I trust you, your heart softens. The heaviness inside your chest slowly eases. Acceptance shifts your focus from what you lost to what Allah is preparing. With that shift, healing quietly begins and hope gently returns. Often we believe healing requires answers from people. You wait for an apology, an explanation, or some acknowledgement of your pain. You feel closure depends on their words. But Allah sometimes withholds those answers because your heart would remain attached if you received them. Instead, He invites you to find closure through reliance on Him. When you stop waiting for people and start turning to Allah, your emotional burden decreases. Du'a becomes your conversation and prayer becomes your comfort. You realize that human explanations rarely satisfy the heart, but divine trust brings peace. Allah heals you not by changing the past, but by strengthening your present. Once you accept that some questions will remain unanswered, your thoughts quiet and your sleep becomes calmer. Acceptance is not passive. It is an active choice to believe Allah chose what ultimately benefits you. At first, your emotions resist because attachment makes you hold tightly to memories. You remember laughter, kindness and plans, and your heart wants them back, but you saw only moments while Allah saw the full reality. He knew what would hurt you later. By accepting His wisdom, you acknowledge that His knowledge is complete while yours is limited. This realization brings humility and relief. You stop blaming yourself for everything and stop blaming others for your healing. Instead, you entrust your story to Allah. The heart becomes lighter because it is no longer carrying control it never truly had. Overthinking delays recovery. You analyze every detail and imagine countless possibilities. Your mind treats the past like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Yet some events are not puzzles, they are lessons. Acceptance teaches you to learn without reliving. When you accept Allah's decree, your thoughts begin to rest. You still remember, but the memories no longer disturb you constantly. They become experiences rather than wounds. You gain perspective and emotional stability. The energy once spent on questioning is redirected toward growth and worship. Healing requires this redirection, and acceptance makes it possible. Another part of acceptance is recognizing that Allah's timing is always precise. You may feel the separation happened too soon or too suddenly, but Allah knows when your heart needed rescue. Had it continued longer, your pain could have been deeper. His timing prevented greater harm. When you trust this, resentment fades. Gratitude gradually replaces confusion. You start to see protection in what once looked like loss. Your faith strengthens because you witnessed Allah's care in a difficult moment. Trusting divine timing allows your heart to relax instead of fight reality. Acceptance also protects your self-respect. When you resist reality, you often chase explanations or attempt to restore what Allah already removed. This pursuit prolongs emotional pain. By accepting His decision, you maintain dignity. You do not beg for attention or closure from people who cannot provide it. You rely on Allah instead. This reliance rebuilds your confidence and emotional balance. You feel calmer because your stability comes from faith rather than from others' responses. Dignity and peace grow together when acceptance is sincere. Through acceptance, your relationship with Allah deepens. You speak to Him more honestly, sharing fears and hopes openly. You no longer approach Him only in comfort but also in vulnerability. This sincerity strengthens your iman. You begin to feel Allah's presence in daily life, not just in hardship. The connection becomes personal and comforting. You realize the event drew you closer to Allah than ease ever did. Healing becomes spiritual as well as emotional. The pain that once distanced you from happiness brings you nearer to your Creator. Acceptance gradually transforms your perspective. Instead of asking why it happened, you ask what it taught you. You notice growth in patience, awareness, and emotional maturity. You become more careful in choosing relationships and more attentive to your inner peace. Allah uses hardship to refine character. By accepting His wisdom, you allow the lesson to benefit you rather than harm you. Your future decisions improve because you learned from experience. Healing becomes meaningful because it leads to personal development. You will still have moments of sadness, and this is natural. Acceptance does not erase emotion instantly. Some days memories return and you feel the pain again, but the difference is you no longer feel lost in it. You remind yourself that Allah chose what was best. You make dua and seek comfort in prayer. Each time you do, the sadness softens faster, patience strengthens, and resilience grows. Healing becomes steady rather than uncertain. Over time, the difficult memories lose their intensity and peace becomes your normal state. Allah also replaces what you lost once acceptance settles in your heart. Sometimes the replacement is inner calm, sometimes better companionship, and sometimes simply relief from anxiety. You notice your life becoming more balanced. You laugh more easily and worry less. The space once filled with overthinking becomes filled with gratitude. Acceptance allows you to receive these blessings because your heart is open to them. You realize that letting go created room for new goodness. Your dua changes as well. Instead of asking for the past to return, you ask for guidance forward. You pray for contentment and strength. Allah answers by giving you emotional stability and clarity. You trust His plan even when details remain unseen. This trust protects you from future despair because you experienced His mercy personally. Faith becomes practical, not theoretical. Healing becomes part of your spiritual journey rather than just emotional recovery. Always remember, healing begins the moment you trust Allah more than your own expectations. His wisdom may not be visible immediately, but it is always present. By accepting His decree, you free your heart from resistance and allow peace to enter. One day you will look back and see how carefully Allah guided you. The pain that once confused you will become a reason for gratitude, and your heart will rest knowing that Allah never chose anything for you except what ultimately brings goodness and tranquility. My dear brothers and sisters, closure does not always come from people. Sometimes it comes from understanding Allah's wisdom. You may never hear an apology, you may never get the explanation you wanted, and you may never see them recognize your value. But you do not need their realization for your healing. Allah already knew your worth before they misunderstood you. When you stop asking why they left and start trusting why Allah removed them, your heart becomes lighter. You learn that dignity is preserved by walking away and peace is preserved by trusting Allah's plan. What is written for you will never miss you, and what left you was never meant to stay. So release the pain, hand it to Allah, and move forward knowing that what He prepares for you will never treat your heart as temporary.